Rod Genders here with the thrilling story of the founding of my law firm. Genders and Partners are the oldest law firm in South Australia. We started in 1848. And when it started, South Australia was still a colony. And my firm was founded by the first sheriff of South Australia, Samuel Smart. So what happened was that when he was the sheriff, a convict by the name of McGee took a pot shot at him. South Australia was free settled. We didn't have convicts, but he was an escaped convict from New South Wales. He took a shot at the sheriff and missed, but he was convicted of the charge of attempted murder, and the sentence was death by hanging. Now, this was the first public execution in South Australia. No one had done it before. So they had to scout around and find a suitable venue to hold the public execution. They wound up in what is now the car park of the Adelaide Oval. And there was a big procession down King William Street. The condemned man was sitting on his own coffin, mounted on a horse and cart. And the executioner was hooded and disguised, as was the custom. And crowds lined the street, and they found themselves down at the venue. And what was supposed to happen was the executioner was supposed to whip the horse out from under the condemned man, who would then break his neck. Unfortunately, the executioner had never done it before, and he was nervous. And he just more or less patted the rump of the horse, who moseyed off quietly, and the poor condemned man slid off the back and then started to choke and suffocate on the end of the rope. Well, people in the crowd screamed, women fainted, there were calls for the troopers to shoot the poor man out of his misery. The only one who kept his head in all of this was the victim and still sheriff, Samuel Smart. He tried to keep order, which wasn't assisted by the executioner panicking and running off into the scrub. So Samuel Smart ordered the troopers to go after the executioner and bring him back at gunpoint, and ordered him to finish the job. Well, the only thing the executioner could think to do was to pull on the poor condemned man's legs to try to finish the job, and that's what he did. So this unedifying spectacle was the first public execution in South Australia, and it so unnerved Samuel Smart that fairly shortly thereafter he resigned as Sheriff of South Australia and formed his own law firm. And later on he went into partnership with a man called Wilson, A.T.K. Wilson, and it was Smart and Wilson for most of the rest of the 1800s. And then Smart died, and around 1900, I think it was 1901, my grandfather Eustace Genders joined the firm, and it was then called Genders, Wilson and Partners for most of the rest of the 20th century. And then eventually Wilson retired and it became known as Genders and Partners. Now there's one further little chapter in all of this. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time of this first public execution was a man named Henry Jickling, very eccentric individual by all accounts. And he was so unnerved by this public spectacle that he contrived to interfere in the next 12 capital offence cases that appeared before the court, and found the accused not guilty in every single one of them, because he couldn't bear to bring past judgment of death against any other accused. Well, this rather undermined the system of justice in the fledgling colony, and so he was relieved of his duties and sent home to England in disgrace. So there we are, folks, the true story of the founding of the oldest law firm in South Australia. Hope you liked it.